Get Up Nation. My name is Ben Biddick. I am the creator and host of the Get Up Nation podcast, where I serve individuals, organizations, and societies to develop and sustain resilience and perseverance. I'm the co-author of Get Up, The Art of Perseverance, with former Major League Baseball player and CEO of Luron Living, Adam Greenberg.
The Get Up Nation podcast is brought to you in partnership with GotYourSixCoffee.com, where Navy veteran Eric Hadley is committed to serving first responders, veterans, and their families through a variety of nonprofit organizations. No stranger to adversity, Eric has fused necessity of coffee with his passion for public service. You're already purchasing coffee. Why not empower your coffee with purpose? Why not purchase coffee that not only has your six, but also has the backs of those who don a uniform of service for our communities and great country? Learn more about Eric and his freshly roasted, award-winning coffee at GotYourSixCoffee.com. Recently, I had the honor and privilege of speaking with two of the three co-authors of the Warriors Book of Virtues, a field manual for living your best life, named Matt Bloom and Richard Buzz Bryan. Buzz joined me on Get Up Nation with his friend Pittsburgh Steeler Alejandro Villanueva a while back to share how they're serving fellow veterans. But today he joins me with Matt Bloom, who served with him in Iraq. I had the privilege of writing the foreword for this, and I'm honored to be able to share with Get Up Nation on the day of this book's release some of the insight and expertise of men who, when our country called them, went to war, returned from war, and served their peers who have returned from war. They continue their legacy of service today by helping others live their finest lives. Matt, Buzz, welcome to the show. Congratulations on your new book being published by Penguin Random House, and thank you for taking the time today to join me.
Hey, thanks, Ben. I appreciate it having me here. Appreciate it, Ben. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. I just want to say, first of all, congratulations. Even during pre-order, your book rose to #1 in some categories on Amazon. There's a lot of excitement about this book. It's been featured in numerous publications and shows huge promise when it comes to positively impacting our world. So congratulations on that. Even before being released, you're already having some success. So congrats.
Thank you to see it performing so well already. It was very humbling. Yeah, I agree. I'm surprised. I was the one who was, the last guy in. Not because I was the last guy in, just because I was the one stalling a little bit and wasn't sure I wanted to do it or wasn't sure that I had really anything to add. So to see that some of the initial reports and data are showing that pre-sales are doing well, and there's some categories that it's really high in, it's really cool. Not that I'm surprised by it, but it's interesting to me. I would have been happy if we sold one book to one person that I didn't work with or wasn't a friend with or had served with at some point. So I think maybe we're going to meet that goal. That was my goal. Two books is an absolute win for me.
I think you're going to sell a lot more than one or two. Let's get into this. I'd like to get your insight about this process and really figure out where this book comes from and why it's having this type of impact on people. Can we start with how the three authors of the book met? Nick Bennis can't be with us today, but the three of you served in Iraq together. Will you tell us some about the unit you served in and where you served?
We all met in a reserve unit in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was MP Company Bravo, part of 4th Service Support Group out of 4th Mardiv of the Marine Corps. I was in the unit already. Buzz came to the unit as the instructor staff. He was the corpsman for the unit, was part of Fleet Marine Corps. And then Nick came in as a volunteer. He was getting out of the Marine Corps from active duty and wanted to do a deployment, and he talks about that a little bit in the book. And we all shipped off to Iraq in June of 2004, and then did some stuff over there. The three of us were actually part of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq in November of 2004. And since then, we've all kind of kept in touch. Kind of weird when you get out of the military, everyone goes their separate ways across the country. So that's where we kind of all met. And then the book, all three of us ended up in the helping profession. Buzz and I worked at the VA hospital here in Pittsburgh. I was a social worker. Buzz was a transition patient advocate. Connecting with Dennis, I didn't know he'd gone into the helping profession as well. And one of his earlier books, Mental Health Emergency, he asked me to read it and do some stuff for it. And I was like, dude, we got to do something that's military related. Kind of half jokingly, kind of serious. And I'd mentioned it to Buzz because working directly with veterans, I mean, we had quite the story of not just being deployed, but working with vets in general. And then mixing that in with some of the mental health stuff that we've all been exposed to. And Nick took us at our word and said, yeah, give me something. We presented an idea. He ran with it. A year later, we're here.
Yeah, you guys continued to serve after completing your commitment to the Navy and the Marine Corps by working for the VA. Your genuine and authentic concern for helping ensure veterans were receiving effective services that not only saved a number of lives in the veteran population, but also your own, went unknown to you at the time, as you may have had a gun pointed your way a time or two until they realized that you were truly there to help them. How satisfying was it for you to help ensure veterans are receiving effective care post-service?
When I retired from active duty, I was a little bit different than Nick and Matt. I was the active duty guy. When I retired, I was lucky enough to get hired by the Veterans Integrated Service Network in Pittsburgh, and the position was virtual, and what it allowed me to do was go out and work with Iraq and Afghanistan veterans that were seriously injured and seriously ill, and even better is it allowed me, for the director of the facilities and the director of the visit office, to go out and travel to the veteran. So if that meant that the veteran was struggling with whatever, whether it was a health reason, whether it was a legal reason, finances, we went directly to the veteran. So if a veteran didn't necessarily want to come into the VA for whatever reason, I was always able to say to that veteran, hey, listen, well, I'll come to you. You don't have to come to me. You don't have to come and sit down in my office in VA, wherever. I'll come to you and meet you there, and we'll sit down and we'll talk and, figure out what's going on. And there were circumstances where that we laugh about it now or after the fact, that we were probably, myself and my partner, were probably, we put ourselves in positions that we probably should have thought about a little bit more safety in mind, or maybe we shouldn't go down this wooded path with a veteran who's in crisis and he wants to BZO his weapons. But there we were, walking down the train tracks and up in Dubois, Pennsylvania. We're a click or so away from our vehicles. We're not armed. We don't have anything but ourselves, and he has a loaded weapon. And, we laugh about it now, but, it could have went either way. Now, it went fine. The veteran, we were willing to talk down and just, convince him, hey, everything's going to be okay. Let us help you out. We're not here to take you anywhere or make you do something you don't want to do. But there certainly were multiple circumstances where we put ourselves maybe in a little bit more, I don't know if I want to say harm's way, but in a predicament that we probably should have thought out a little bit more, or maybe alerted local law enforcement, hey, if you see a car abandoned in the woods and there's nobody there, that maybe come and check us out. We're down here a little bit. But there's a piece in the book about one of the veterans that we were visiting that the clinicians wanted us to go out and check on and just make sure he was okay. That kind of escalated a little bit too, but we were able to, de-escalate the situation, avert the crisis, and just talk to the veteran and let him know, hey, I'm not the bad guy or the good guy. I'm just the guy that's here to say, hey, listen, why don't you give us an opportunity to help you out? Or at the very least, if you don't want us to help you out, we just want to make sure you're okay. I want to get eyeballs on you and make sure that everything's all right. You're eating, you have shelter, the basic things that, we all want, we all need.
I just love your commitment to one another and to those who have served. It's that selfless service where you put aside your own safety and go with just the best intentions and some resources that you want to connect people to. No agenda, just simply wanting to help others and prevent awful things from happening and honor people in their service. This is the spirit of this book. It comes from the spirit of the three of you who volunteered to go to war for this country in a time when our civilian population had been attacked, and your fidelity to the people that you served with and other veterans who have served is so commendable and so respectful. I think it really speaks of why this book is such a success, is because it speaks to these deeper realities that people hunger for in a world of instant gratification, in a world of interactions which can be pretty callous or superficial. You really go to the depth of our experience and you embody leaving no one behind. So I want to talk about this book, The Warrior's Book of Virtue, a field manual for living your best life, published by Penguin Random House, coming out July 30. You talked a little bit about where this began and the thought process and the three of you working together to create this. Can we get into a little bit of why you decided to write it? Was it seeing various principles in action during war that helped Marines thrive and survive in difficult circumstances, and then seeing a lack of these principles in the civilian populace? What made you take the time to invest so much work in trying to help people create better lives for themselves and their families, regardless of whether they're veterans or not?
Yeah, Ben, that's a great point. I think the overlying motivation for the three of us is we want to give back. Part of the helping profession, we want to take our experiences, learn in the military, on deployments, and in our professional lives, that we can give back. And all three of us were exposed to issues that preclude or prevent people from getting out of their own way. Vets and non-vets alike. Buzz and I saw quite a bit, specifically with veterans. It also applies to non-veterans. So, for example, any veteran goes through boot camp or initial training or something like that, and over the course of time, they learn these principles. Like, they are trained, it's ingrained in them day in and day out. And what we've seen in the world was coinciding with what we were seeing with working with some veterans. Not all, just some. Everyone has their own issues. But right now in society, you have this huge sense of entitlement, or I want it now, and I don't want to put in the work. Or even people that are suffering from a mental illness or whatnot, that they become debilitated by depression or anxiety and stuff like that. So we saw this as an opportunity to use our information and experience to give back to veterans and non-veterans alike. And when we put this together, we didn't want to shove the military or veteran lifestyle down the reader's throat. This is for everybody. I think that was kind of important to us, that we just wanted to reach people in general, because we don't want to single anybody out. We want everyone to be better. We want society, our country, everything to be better. And if we can provide information that we've taken from a professional military standpoint, then that's great. Our information, our words, if they can motivate somebody to take action in their own lives, then we're working ourselves out of a job. If we could have less psychologists, psychiatrists, social workers, therapists, whatever, and even more so less medication, that's great. We want everyone to be able to maintain their own lives and have their own direction and be successful. And I think that's this common goal that all three of us have shared during the write-up of this book.
And real quick, there's so many guys and gals that have, just have gotten in and out of the service, or even some of our younger population in general, non-veterans. So easy for them to just say, I give up, or I'm not going to do that anymore, or I'm not going to fight through it. Their resiliency is just, it's in question. And when we were veterans, you would see how resilient we were. It was never the easy way. It was the hard way. We were going to do it. We were going to make it work. We were going to figure out how to do it, whether it was hard or whether it was easy. We were going to get the mission done, and we were going to accomplish it, no matter what. To me, it's a state of mind. It was just my way of life. And I saw that in a lot of our service members when I was on active duty, and I see it in a lot of our youth as well. But there's also, like Matt said, there is this sense of complacency. There is this sense of, get this, and it should be real easy. I'm going to go on Instagram, and I'm going to make $1 million as an Instagram whatever, or I'm going to go on Facebook and do this or that. And it should be easy, and it should come to me easy. You see that so much nowadays that, put in a little bit of work. It's okay to get your hands dirty. It's okay to get your hands bloody or whatever it takes. Have at it, get after it, especially our veterans. And a lot of them I talk to, and I talk to them in the VA every day when I see them. I'm not Sergeant such and such anymore. I'm not, Chief such and such anymore. I'm Buzz Bryan, and I work for the VA, and if I can help you, and let me help you. Let me get frustrated for you. Let me get you through whatever it is that you're struggling with and getting you through. It may not be easy, but that's okay. Let's just do it. Let's get after it. So,
I love that. I love that solidarity of it, where you're actually taking another person's challenge and you're making it your own. And then the two of you, isolation is such a problem, and that is such a barrier to resilience. So to get past that isolation with connection and to take on that challenge together, that's a powerful creator of resilience. I love that mindset and that mentality.
And Ben, you served in the Army. You served. You know how the brotherhood is. You know how it works.
Yep.
We do everything together. We live together. We eat together. We sleep together. We fight together. We compete together. We do everything together.
Yep.
That doesn't have to, that teamwork, that brotherhood doesn't have to end when you walk out of the military. I know it's different. I know. I get that. And the civilian world is different, but that doesn't mean that we can't have those same things. You're growing up, you play a sport, whether it's in high school, grade school, and you're part of a team, and you do everything together, you help each other out, you have each other's backs, you figure out how to make it work. So once again, get after it, do it. We can accomplish, anything. It can't should be a word that is banned and is not in our vocabulary.
Let's talk about the book as a tool that people can use to do that. It's designed to be a field manual for those who are seeking to improve their lives. Will you describe the format of the book and how people can use it powerfully to their advantage?
We talked about 11 virtues and principles that the Marine Corps, but even everyday life, instills in people. So what we did is we kind of go through an introduction of how the book's going to read, what the book can do for the reader. And then each chapter is broken down. So, for instance, the first chapter of the book is discipline. In our opinion, discipline is the grounding virtue for everything else in life. Without being disciplined in your life, you're not really going to be able to accomplish much. So what we did with the book is we mixed it with probably 70% factual context, and then 30% context with stories from our experiences in the military. So we talk about discipline, we go into some historical details about discipline, and then we give a few military or personal stories of how discipline impacted our lives, something stupid that happened in the military. But then at the end of each chapter, we give a sit rep. And for the military members, they understand that it's a situational report. There we provide information of what is bad about not being disciplined, what the enemy is per se. If you're seeing A, B, and C taking place in your life, then it's probably not a good thing. You're probably not excelling with using or displaying discipline. Another tool that we give that everyone can kind of use in everyday life, and this is what I really like about the book with the sit reps and the 9-line. So 9-line is a format that's used in the military to get people out of they're injured or whatnot in a hot zone. So what we use for the 9-line is we have a set of 9 lines, 9 ideas, where it allows the reader to really take a moral compass or moral checklist of themselves and say, hey, if you want to have more discipline in your life, first check in with this, and then prioritize, set goals, where they can really be honest with themselves. When we give you examples, okay, make your bed every day or brush your teeth and so on and so forth, where you can actually read this and take stock in it and practice it on a daily basis. And I think that we do that for each virtue through the 11 chapters. And what I like about it, because I've read, quite a few books of Buzz and of Nick have, a lot of self-help books are amazing, but they don't really give you that real roadmap on how to apply it in everyday life. We don't want you to be depressed, so we want you to engage with self-help or go seek treatment, or you might need medication, so on and so forth. We start basic with the littlest things that you can do to create more discipline, more integrity, more fortitude, more temperance in your daily life. That goes out through the entire book, and it reads really easy. We finally got our eyes on the finished product not too long ago, and it's 160 pages, and it reads so well. I'm trying to be impartial, but and I don't like to read. I'm not one that will sit all day in the bookstore and wow, I can't wait to read this. I'm probably my harshest critic. But it's so easy for the reader to get wrapped up in it and take stock in it and to practice it on a daily basis.
So there's a number of concepts, and you help people confront the challenging things within them by using this book. Instant gratification, a lack of discipline, a lack of prudence, and you highlight your experiences in service and combat, the essential value of these concepts in our own mentality and with our interactions with others. Can you just run through a basic example of something you guys experienced in combat that is a lesson that you learned that helped you do?
You want to talk about some of your stories, Buzz?
Yeah, I can do that. Why not? So, let me see, one of our stories from the book. So we could do one. I was on the I&I staff when we all met, and the order came down that we were going to deploy again. Or I take that back, the reserve company was going to deploy, which I was not a part of. I was not company personnel. I was part of the instructor staff, so I was not in a deployable billet. The only deployable billet was the ops chief, and he would be the only one who would deploy forward. Well, I had an issue with that. I can tell you there was no way on God's green earth that the company that I had gotten to know over a short time, because they had come back from the initial deployment, and I met them in Camp Lejeune, and that started my relationship. I met them as they came off the bus, and I immediately went into a tirade on them of what I thought and how things were going to be from now on. And I'm sure they all probably thought, who is this little cat who I don't know who you are, bro. We've been in combat. in a combat zone for the last, 8-9 months. It was a long deployment, their first deployment. But, I immediately wanted to build a relationship with them, wanted to gain their trust, and wanted them to understand what I was all about and how I thought things should operate. So, hence, a couple months later, when they got the order that they were going to go forward again, I immediately was told that, hey, you're not going. At which point I immediately told my CEO that, I'm sorry, the instructor, that wasn't happening, that there was no way that this company was going to go forward without me and just pick up 3 corpsmen that they had never met, never trained with, never did anything with, wherever they were deploying out of, whether it was Lucian, Pendleton, wherever.
And I doubt that conversation was that calm as you just explained it.
Well, I mean, I think maybe initially it was. I think the initial brief was something like that, but I can assure you that it started to become more and more colorful as it progressed on, and they continued to tell me no. But one thing I did was, like I said, I had started to build that brotherhood and that camaraderie with the reserve company, who I knew were going forward. So I immediately, once we found out, I immediately contacted the reserve CO, and him and I had to sit down and talked about it. And I told him what my opinion, and he agreed. So I said, all right, well, that's Major such and such in my back pocket. The senior enlisted. I went and saw him next. He agreed as well. I said, well, all right. So I have my ammunition here. So at which point I just, over the next couple months, as we started to work up and get ready to deploy, I just made it more and more evident that I was not sitting in the rear with the gear. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. There's a role for everybody. And so I tell everyone, I said, but that wasn't my role. And I just was not allowing him to go back into harm's way without me. So it continued on. It continued on to the very minute we got on the plane to go to Iraq. So, we left Pittsburgh with the company. We spent a month and a half in Camp Pendleton and 29 Palms working up. They continued to tell me, you're not going. I continued to say, negative, I am going. And I said, you're not going to stop me from getting on that bird. And I had the ammunition. And literally, probably 48 hours prior to us getting on the bird to fly over to, Kuwait and then further up into Iraq, did Marshal Rez finally say, all right, just let the little guy go, for God's sakes, because he's creating such an uproar over it. I mean, again, I walked around. I used to post signs in the reserve center. How I didn't get NJP is beyond me, because I was extremely belligerent. I was extremely, probably borderline disrespectful. But it's what I believed. It's just how I was raised in the Corps. I just couldn't do it. That was just my attitude. I just couldn't see myself not being there with them. And, the good thing is when we got to Pendleton, the 3 corpsmen that we picked up were great. They were awesome. They were good cats. They were all my kind of guys. We immediately started to sit down and say, okay, we're going forward. We knew the platoons were going to be split up, and some were going to be up, in certain places. We weren't going to be together. So, how do we prepare these Marines for what they could possibly see? We immediately started to train them, and more so than basic. We took like the Army, and I hate to say this, the Army Combat Lifesaver course, and we kind of expanded upon it. We started working with our respective platoons and groups and, rifles and our squads and just trained them in first aid plus, and there was a certain amount of them that were trained how to use an IV, how to place the tourniquet properly. It's possible that Doc could be down. What happens if Doc's down? Well, someone's got to step up and be able to provide aid and call in a 9, get with the combos and call a 9-9 if need be, or call a medevac. Someone's got to be able to do that if I'm not there. So, we trained and we trained and we trained, and when we finally got out there and got into it, and one of the first missions we had an incident, the Marines reacted exactly the way they were supposed to react, and that's. That's what it's all about. You think about, my God, this is a 19, 20-year-old kid, and he's handling. You're taking fire, and you got a guy who's got a traumatic amputation, and this cat is, putting a tourniquet on him, calming him down, getting an IV rolling, getting him on the bird before Doc even, was able to get to him. I mean, that's what it's all about, and that was my point that I was trying to, get through to the I&I stand. And I still have my green Monster that has a little yellow sticky in it that I've carried for almost 15 years now, with a letter from the I&I First Sergeant that means a lot to me. That's, you know, about this deployment. Mm-hmm. So, but there's many stories. I mean, some are more colorful than others. I think a couple of the stories that are in the book are really hit home. I mean, kind of provide a little bit of how all three of us, as well as some of the guys that we went forward with. I'm pretty proud of it. I'm surprised, and as I tell people, I said, you know, I'm just a dum-dum from Philadelphia, you know, who was lucky enough to go forward with and serve with, you know, to me the greatest fighting force there is, and that's and as well as, you know, and in all respect to the other services as well, because, you know, when you get in combat, you know, to your left is Army, to your right might be whoever, the Air Force, you know, and just, you know, it is what it is, man. You do what you got to do, and you know, you get through it. You take care of each other.
Buzz's resilience and fortitude was paramount. I mean, he calls it belligerence. We're going to call it fortitude and resilience because, like, to get this across to your listeners, it'd be like having your own PCP for X amount of years, days, weeks, or whatever. Your primary care doctor, and then you're sent off somewhere, like you can't take your doctor with you. That knows everything about you. They know your personality, your rapport is great, and they weren't going to let him go. And as Buzz said, our company got broken up. Well, fortunately for me, Buzz actually, they broke us up into more smaller platoons than they initially planned. So actually, Buzz was stuck with my platoon in Fallujah, which was a godsend. You know, I mean, he was there. He knew our background. So if something were to happen to some of us, which did, he already knew. So we didn't have to give someone else up to speed, like, oh, hey, this is Bloom. He has allergies. He's APOD that are blah blah blah. Buzz is there to take care of everything. So it was just there's one less thing you had to worry about in combat. You know, and if you can take that to the civilian side of your personal life, if you can take one more thing off your checklist of being prepared and being ready to take on life struggles, then that's half the battle. You just want to keep checking boxes off. And by Buzz doing that for us was amazing. Can't explain it. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Buzz, for almost getting MVP.
I'm thinking of Sebastian Junger's book, Tribe. He writes about how warriors returning to various tribes after combat had gained a revered wisdom that goes beyond any common experience. So as you guys experience combat and you return to civilian life, why was virtue a concept that you wanted to focus on for those who are interested in living their best lives after you have experienced situations where you could have very easily lost your own?
And I'll be candid if you don't mind. When we came back the last time in 2005, I was a mess. Like, you know, I joined the Marine Corps at age 21 because I didn't have much direction. I had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. I was enrolled in college just to be enrolled. It was the cool kid thing to do. That's what I was supposed to do, I guess. But then after coming back from that deployment and all the stuff that we went through, I was just kind of like lost again. And then I was fortunate enough to get hired at the VA. Buzz and a few other guys were still around. And then you start remembering your training and overcoming certain issues that are going on in your life. And then you want to be productive. And I think as we got more into the helping profession, and we kind of saw everyone else struggling with the same thing, you know, lack of virtues, discipline, or, you know, temperance and stuff like that. The more and more like, man, hey, this person needs this, or they need that. And they all came back to being virtuous. You know, I don't mean to keep repeating that word, but that's basically all it is. I mean, like we said, discipline. If you don't have the discipline, you're not going to do it. You're going to sit on the couch. You're going to come back to the first div, and you're going to sit on the couch. You're going to play video games, drink beer, and not do anything for the rest of your life. But we were seeing that way too much firsthand. You know, but there were many days Buzz and I would just sit there when he would come into the office, and like, can you believe this? And, like, those conversations were happening more and more and more, and then mainstream gets a hold of it, and you're seeing it in the regular civilian sector, and it's like, man, what is going on, you know? And that's where this book came into play, and now we're excited to see where the book takes it, see how everyone responds, and like Buzz said, if one person or even two people buy the book and they help themselves, then it's a success. You know, in the helping profession, if you had 100 drug addicts or criminals or whatever, and you help one person, they turn their life around and they do something great, then your work has been a success. You know, it's not based off majority statistics or anything like that. If you reach one person, then that's where we see our job well done.
And I agree with that, and I won't go on much further because I think, Matt, you answered that well. I still see it to this day. You know, I've worked at the VA now for almost 12 years, 10 and a half in Pittsburgh, and now I'm down here in West Palm, and you know, my role here is you know, the outreach director, so it's a little bit different than what my role was in Pittsburgh. But I still find myself, I miss the direct contact with veterans. I find myself walking the hallways of the hospital the days that I'm there, just talking to veterans, you know, hearing what's going on with veterans and finding out what they're struggling with, what they're battling with. And, you know, I was taking a mental health first aid course this past Tuesday, and in that class there was a lady who works for a VSO who was saying that there was a veteran that she knew of that was homeless, and that he was on the streets, and that he'd been on the street for about 6 months, and no one from the VA would help him. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, you probably called the wrong person. So here's my card. When you get to, you know, wherever, you send me an email, provide me this information, and I will go find this cat, and we'll figure out what's going on. So long story short, I get the information. We find this veteran. He's not necessarily eligible for everything for whatever reason, but he's on the streets, and he's a veteran. You know, even more unfortunate, his wife is with him as well. She has stage 4 brain cancer. She's not doing well, and they're living on the streets. So my attitude is this. You know, it's kind of like, and we talk a little bit, I think, briefly in the book about it as well, that, you know, one of our ROEs, there was a question brought up, and one of the greatest statements from our first sergeant prior to Fallujah was, you know, when we were questioning ROEs is, you know, here's going to be our ROEs, shoot first, beg for forgiveness later. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I took that with me, and I took it to heart, and I carry it with me today. And I use that today as I'm helping veterans and working with veterans, or helping some of my, you know, kids that I've coached or been involved with. You know, I'm going to shoot first and beg for forgiveness later. I don't care that this veteran may not be eligible for whatever reason, or may have an issue, or there's something that, you know, some bureaucracy or bureaucratic whatever that's preventing this man from getting help and his wife. I'm not going to allow a veteran to be on the street, and even so, a veteran who has a wife who's suffering, to be on the street because we can't figure out the bureaucracy or some silliness. I'm going to figure it out. And once again, I'm going to show them I'm shooting first and I'm begging for forgiveness later. So in the long run, if I'm going to get in trouble because I did the right thing by helping this guy out or this gal out who's on the street, well then I'll take that ass chewing, Ben, every day, anytime. You know, and those are some of the virtues that I think that, you know, we're trying to say. I enjoy helping people, not because I want a pat on my back, or not because it's just, I think it's who we are and our personalities. I mean, Matt knows me well, and that's probably why he's chuckling, because he probably knows me, because the conversation was very candid today with our homeless coordinator. She didn't like it, but...
Yeah, it's funny, like, so Buzz and I worked for 7 years directly, and we had a great program. It's no longer in the VA. It was called the OEF-OND case management program. And we had a really good group of core social workers. Our motto was we would just get crap done. You know, substitute the S word for that. And Buzz is exactly right. And we would do the right thing. We would go to whoever we needed to talk to directly. We went to their, you know, we had our own chain of command, but our chain of command was like, do what you need to do. And we would go to other department heads. It didn't matter. Like, we talked to who we needed to talk to. And that's what I think the book will encourage people to do, is do the right thing, you know. And we say that in quotations, like, you have to know what the right thing is to do before you just go off and do it. I mean, I know for Buzz, not so much Buzz, but maybe me, because I didn't have the leeway as Buzz did, but at times we were considered rogue, because we wanted to help veterans. We wanted to get things done, and we made sure we did it. And, we put a little bit of that into this book, which is kind of exciting to see in print. So, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. So many of our systems are bogged down by bureaucracy and ridiculous regulation and madness that people are so impeded from being able to simply do good for others. And so I love seeing the warrior within both of you go into war to help, veterans on the street and their spouses who have stage 4 brain cancer.
I mean, think about that, Ben. I mean, stage 4 brain cancer.
Right.
And she's on the street.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
For me, it's just, sometimes the right thing to do is just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
right.
That's nothing, I get the rules and regulations. We abided by them in the military, and we abide by them in life and in our jobs and our everyday world.
Right.
But you know what? I mean, it's just something, sometimes the right thing to do is the right thing. And the system works. Don't get me wrong. The system works. I'm by no means, bagging on, the VA or the system. The system works, and the VA works, and the care is terrific. But there sometimes I think we make things a little bit harder than maybe they necessarily need to be.
Sure.
Sure. But I think this book, though, it's a good segue, but I think this book will enable and motivate veterans to be their best person and their best advocate to get what they need.
Exactly.
We've seen a lot of times where you're told no once, and then they stop. We can go off on tangents all day, especially with, whether it be Social Security, it's the underlying rules are going to deny you once, and once you apply again, you're going to be, accepted. And I think this book will motivate people to, like I said, be their best advocate and go do the right thing and not take no for an answer in order to live their best life.
Awesome. I love it.
Keep your weapon downrange and stay in the fight.
Oh, love it.
You have to take care of yourself.
Personally, I often think of those who did not make it back, who made the ultimate sacrifice. I think about them as I think about how I'm going to live my life and the gift of time that I have. I made it back for whatever reason that is. I'm back, and I think of those families that their loved one did not come back. That is a powerful motivator for me to live my finest life. And as you reflect on your service, those who were harmed and those who gave their lives, their families, this had to be, I'm guessing, a reality in your minds also as you put this book together. I think survivor guilt is a powerful reality in many people's lives who have been through traumatic events, whether military or not. Could you speak about living your lives to the fullest, not just for the personal satisfaction of doing so, but also in honor of those who gave their lives so that we can do that with our own?
For me, I want to pass information on. Great men have made that ultimate sacrifice, great men and women. And they're not here to pass on what they learned or what some of their experiences were or their words of wisdom. And I think, for me, if I don't pass on what I've learned or taken from my experiences, because I'm not, I'm just a small Western PA kid from Pennsylvania, Buzz is from streets of Philadelphia and so on and so forth. It's like, if we don't pass this information on, we're doing those that have passed before us a disservice by not honoring them, by passing on the lessons and experiences. I think one of our things as a human is we should be passing on all this information, good, bad, to the next generation in order to either learn from it or to expand upon it. And there's that wild sci-fi movie, Lucy, with Morgan Freeman. And there's the line, she's asking him, what do we do with this information? He's like, pass it on. And that's kind of something I kind of take to heart is, that's how I want to honor. My dedication to this book was for my late grandfather, who was an Air Force and Navy veteran of 20 years and had to medically retire at 20, thankfully, due to MS. Some of the stuff that he's instilled in me and passed on to me was something I was very proud of, and I carry with me to this day. And I think for all military members, or even if, just regular people that have passed on from your lives, parents, loved ones, spouses, so on and so forth, the best way to honor them is to pass it on. And I think we encapsulate that in this book a little bit.
I think that's a great point. I won't add too much to it because I know we're starting to run long here. I have 3 sons, and that are all in their, early to mid-20s. I want them all to know that it's, and not only them, but, our youth and our young men and women, out there in the communities now, it's okay to fail. It's okay to make a mistake. It's not okay to not try, though. And it's not okay to not learn from your mistakes. It's part of life. It's going to happen. You can use a sports analogy all the time. You look at a baseball player. Bryce Harper, goes 1 for 3. That's a good night. I mean, you're thinking 1 for 3, 1 for 4. Yeah, but it was a 3-run home run. I mean, you're going to fail probably a lot more than you're going to succeed. And I know that's okay. But once again, just continue to go forward, continue to learn. The lessons that I've learned, hopefully I can pass that on to my sons and they see it. And the veterans and the work with on a daily basis, I just enjoy talking to them and sharing experiences with them, and it doesn't have to be a combat experience, or it can be, just an experience in general. And that's right, pass that information down. I mean, it's, and I think we owe that to them, and I think we owe it to, the men and women who aren't, with us anymore for whatever reason, I mean, it's just the rite of passage. I mean, we have to share that knowledge. We have to share that information.
Someone asked me the other day, like, do you regret anything? I was like, no. I said, regret to me is a horrible word. And, this is just my own personal context. I feel if I admit that I regret something, that I didn't learn from that mistake or that whatever that situation was. Like Bud said, we're going to fail a lot more than we succeed. So we have to learn from it. We have to take something from it to make ourselves better. So in that case, I've kept it with me not to regret anything, because that means I'm not learning. If I'm not learning, then I'm not trying. I'm not trying to make an effort to make myself better.
All right, gentlemen, I always end the show with 6 questions to help my listeners understand the why within my phenomenal guests. Will you run through these 6 quick questions with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who are you thankful for today?
I'm thankful for Buzz and Nick.
I'm always thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my wife especially. My wife puts up with has been putting up with me for a long, long time. In September, I've been married 30 years. And, she has kept me grounded. She's let me know when it was time to shut my mouth, when it was time to knock it off. So I'll say my wife, Chrissy. That's a lot of years with me, trust me.
And now that we've covered who you're thankful for, what are you thankful for today?
I'm thankful for opportunity and for life in general. When I was younger, I didn't really take advantage of opportunity or, push myself. It took a lot longer than I anticipated or would have guessed for me to kind of get where I want to be. And I would say just for opportunity in life, man, it's just things have been really great. Have a solid plan, and things are falling into place. So, yeah, life and opportunity.
I'll say I'm thankful for, once again, and then this might be the bulk answer, but I'm thankful for my family. They're wonderful. I'm thankful for my friends. I'm thankful that I'm healthy. I have a job. Lots of things. But those what come to mind right off the top of my head.
How do you fuel the fire within you?
Oh,
Naysayers. People telling me I'm not going to do this or I can't do that. Proving people wrong to a certain degree in a healthy way. And just wanting to be the best person or the best version of myself. I think Marines in general, if you tell them not to push the red button on the wall, as soon as you walk out of the room, they're going to push the red button on the wall. And that's kind of like, I've kind of taken that to heart. I'm like, if you tell me I can't do something or I'm not going to do it, well, then I'm going to keep trying until I do it. So.
I agree. I'm like that. I mean, there's no one that's going to tell me I can't do it or I can't beat them. As a doc, every time I would show up at a unit, the first thing I did is I would challenge the CO or the stud to PT. And there was no way on God's green earth that he or she, well, it was always a he in my case, was going to beat me. So I just had a burning desire to prove to whoever that I could do it, and I was going to do it. Some people might say that's arrogance or that's, being conceited. To me, it wasn't. To me, it was just about the challenge of life, the challenge of proving that no matter what you tell me I can't do or what I can't accomplish, I'm going to do it.
What is one thing adversity taught you to value?
Buzz, you got something? You thought you were done with the hard questions, didn't you?
No, right? Adversity has taught me to value the little wins. If I would achieve like my highest goals instantly, then life would be, I don't know, perfect, and it would be dull. I mean, part of being successful, I think the biggest part of being successful is the struggle. You know, you get that real sense of pride and accomplishment because you're like, man, that took me X amount of days, weeks, years to accomplish. So I think I appreciate the little things even more so today because when you put your complete effort into a task or a goal and you finally obtain it, it's amazing. Like those little wins, you're like, oh, I'm getting closer. It means the world. So, yeah, adversity taught me to appreciate the little wins.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think in our daily jobs, Matt is a police officer now, and I'm still kind of in the VA world, and I think the adversity I face with dealing with veterans that are struggling on a daily basis, I think that adversity that they face and the little wins that we have, whether it be getting a veteran off the street, getting a veteran into the system, getting a veteran a voucher for something. I think those little battles that you fight within have taught me to appreciate many, many things.
What are you doing today you never thought you could?
Write a book. See, that's why I wanted to answer that first, because that's my answer. If anybody, the fact that my name's on the cover of the book, I mean, people who grew up with me or knew me are probably like, you gotta be kidding me. This guy was, he was a dope. I mean, it's, sad, man. I didn't mean to jump in on that. No, that was easy, bro. I mean,
I don't know how many people, I mean, even Buzz at first was like, what? You what? We want to do what? I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. And, I don't know how many people have said, I would have never thought you would have wrote a book. I'm like, me too.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk to people, and it's someone who helped us with the book is trying to convince me to do something else, and I'm like, are you crazy? I fought you the entire way. I was a pain in the you know what, and I'm stunned by the fact, not because it's just like it's looking about where I've come from and where I've been and the guy I am, and it's just. It's funny to me. It's not something that I ever thought I would have done or aspired to do. It just kind of happened, and it's very cool.
And that's what makes this book more special is, A, not thinking that we could do it. I mean, if we try something, we're going to do it. But honestly, I think this is a great product. I mean, I'm excited for people to read it. I'm excited for their reviews. And to see that we put this together, it's pretty special.
Great work. My last question here is, what will you do tomorrow that you never thought you could?
I think in the short term, my next goal is to run a second marathon. And I have to begrudgingly thank another Marine for putting that in my head. I hate to run. I hate it. Buzz loves to run. He's a runner. He runs through plantar fasciitis. Crazy. I always struggle with it. So I ran my first Marine Corps marathon in 2017. But all proud of it. Did a good time. And I was working at the VA still. And another Marine's like, you going to do another one? I said, no. He's like, why? And I'm like, because I already did one. He's like, let me tell you something. He's like, everyone wants to run one. But making the conscious decision, like an idiot, to run your second one is more worth it. I was like, you're a jerk, man. So now, I'm going to punish myself at some point, hopefully within the next year, if work permits, to run my second marathon.
Wow.
Can I before I answer? Can I ask what Marine that was? Is this a Marine that we know, or is this?
No, he worked down at the regional office. So
okay.
Yeah, he's a solid dude. I was like, man, you're a jerk, man. Thanks for killing it for me.
Yeah, that's people don't realize that's quite a commitment. So I'm working with someone who's a Gold Star, family member now who's training to run the Marine Corps Marathon too, and she comes to see me every morning and she struggles. I said, just keep pushing, to be honest. You'll get through it. You can accomplish it. It's a doable thing. It's doable. Remember, can't doesn't exist. I don't know what I feel myself doing tomorrow that I never thought I would do. I mean, I've been dabbling with some ideas about VSO nonprofit type things and, trademarking some stuff like that. And, not to make money or anything like that, but to figure out a way to give back, to continue to give back to our community, not necessarily just veterans, but to give back. It's not something I thought that, I would ever do. But there are some opportunities that I'm interested in. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Sounds like it's unfolding. It'd be cool to see it unfold. Yeah, and gentlemen, how can people learn more about you both and the Warrior Book of Virtues?
Yeah, thanks, man. We're excited. We stand by it. Excited for people to read it and give us their reviews and hopefully have some testimonials from how it applied and was beneficial to their lives. So, yeah, thanks for having us on. Thank you for doing the forward and, speaking with Buzz and I and Nick and putting that together, man. I think people are going to be impressed.
It's great, Ben. I do appreciate it. I mean, that's the same thing. I'm just excited to hear what people think of the book and how the book can help them in their daily lives. Whether you're, a young service member, whether you're a young man or girl, in high school or in college or whatever. And I'm looking forward to hearing information about what they think about it. I may or may not have seen that copy, and have someone check it out in my respect. And there's no military background. She said some really nice things about the book and how it was written. And I was surprised. She's a very intelligent person. And I was like, wow. Not sure I expected that from you, but so it's nice. So hopefully, like I said, to me the bottom line comes that it's one person that we don't know, or don't work with, or in our circle somehow, and we'll get something good.